Personal account of the experience you've had with Madiba.
Well, I do remember one important occasion. I mean, important not because I met him, but because it was important to him. This was back in '96, and he invited a whole group of politics professors from different universities to meet him at the Union buildings 2 years into his presidency. And the reason he asked us to come is because there was a sort of feeling that there was a slight crisis, because the Attorney General in Natal in KwaZulu-Natal had arrested and charged General Magnus Malan with complicity in a massacre. This was a worrying moment for the new Mandela administration. And Mandela invited us, and he greeted us all, and then after the various pleasantries, and they were very pleasant, he insisted on walking around the table, shaking everybody's hand. He had a little anecdote for everybody. He'd clearly been very well briefed, so he knew everybody's name. He then asked us to bear with him while he told us what his problem was, and he was worried, he said, because his government had nothing to do with the decision to prosecute Malan. The courts were independent then, as they are now. But he was concerned that it might elicit a right-wing backlash or even discontent in the higher echelons of the military. And he wanted to know what we felt. And he said, he often asked for advice from businessmen, from trade unionists, but this was the first time he'd met political scientists. And he said, well, look, if I'm worried about politics, why not ask the experts? And he was very charming, but actually this was a serious occasion, as his administration was actually quite concerned.
His legacy and the influence on your work, sir?
His legacy and the influence on my work. Well, I met Mandela on 2 or 3 occasions rather like that, and in fact spoke to him once or twice on the telephone as well. But really, I got to know Mandela through reading his letters, and one of the wonderful things about Mandela is that despite the fact that he was such a public figure, he's also a very private personality with a very rich personal life. And it's a life about which he writes in great detail, because during the time of his imprisonment on Robben Island, he kept in touch with his family and with the outside world through writing and through letters. And so part of his legacy, the less well-known part, we all know about his legacy in terms of the political settlements that he was largely responsible for, and the extent to which he brought different communities within South Africa together, and the creation of a common patriotism. Those big public achievements are well known, but part of his legacy is this wonderful collection of letters which tells us about the private life, the interior life of a man making history, and they are an extraordinary legacy, and it was that actually inspired me to write a book about him.
In your opinion, how should South Africa and South Africans move on from here on in?
Well, of course, South Africa today, 20 years on, is a very different place from the deeply conflicted and divided nation that Mandela encountered when he walked out of Victor Verster prison. But there are still many problems, and one of the most critical problems is the extent to which South Africa is still a divided country with very strong social inequalities, and inequalities that, to an extent, though not to the same extent, coincide with the old social divisions. And as Minister Davis was saying just now in your news clip, perhaps the best way to honour his memory is to still continue to work to try and address those divisions, and trying to make sure that this is a government that really can create a better life for all.
Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. That is Professor Tom Lodge from the University of Limerick in Ireland.